Let me ask you something. Have you ever picked up a can from the pantry, turned it over, looked at the date printed on the bottom, and suddenly wondered if you should throw it away? Maybe it was a can of soup, or tomatoes, or a box of pasta sitting quietly on the shelf. You see that date, and it makes you pause for a moment. You start thinking, is this still good? Should I toss it? Or is it perfectly fine? You know, that little moment of uncertainty happens in kitchens all the time, because pantry expiration dates can be surprisingly confusing. Hello, friend, and welcome to the This Old Baker podcast. I'm Kim from This Old Baker, where we believe good meals start with simple ingredients and a well-stocked pantry. So pull up a chair here at the pantry table, and let's spend a few minutes talking about real kitchens, simple cooking, and the pantry staples that make everyday meals easier. And today, we're talking about something that confuses a lot of home cooks. Pantry expiration dates, those tiny numbers printed on cans and boxes that sometimes make us wonder whether something belongs in dinner or in the trash. You know, the funny thing about pantry dates is that most of them aren't actually expiration dates at all, really. Most of the time, what you're looking at is a best by date. And a best by date simply means something very specific. It means the food is expected to taste its best before that date. Not that it suddenly becomes unsafe the next day. But if you've ever wondered why canned goods sometimes last so long, this is the reason. They're designed to be shelf stable. That's the whole point of pantry foods. I remember a moment a while back when I was cleaning out one of my pantry shelves. Nothing major, just one of those quick little resets. I pulled a few cans forward, moved a couple jars around, and there it was, a can of tomatoes tucked all the way in the back. Completely forgotten. You know how that happens. Something slides behind another item, and suddenly it disappears into pantry history. So I picked up the can, turned it over, and checked the date, and yes, technically, the best by date had passed, but the can itself looked perfectly fine. No bulging, no dents, no leaks. Just a regular can of tomatoes waiting patiently on the shelf. And that moment reminded me of something important. The date is only one part of the story. Because when it comes to pantry foods, there are a few simple things that matter more than the printed date. The condition of the packaging, the smell of the food, and the way it looks when you open it. Those three clues tell you a lot. More than people realize. Here's a simple rule many cooks follow. If a can is bulging, or leaking, or spraying when opened, that's a clear sign to toss it. But if the can looks normal and the food smells normal, most of the time it's perfectly usable. That's because canned foods are sealed in an environment that keeps air out. And without air, food stays stable much longer. Dry pantry foods work a little differently. Things like pasta, rice, beans, flour. Those ingredients can last quite a long time when stored properly, especially when they're kept in a cool, dry pantry. You know, it's interesting to think about how long some of these foods have been part of kitchens. Rice, beans, flour. People have been storing these ingredients in pantries for generations, long before expiration dates were printed on packages. Back then, cooks relied on their senses. They looked at food, they smelled it, they used their judgment. And honestly, That's still a very useful skill today. Take a moment and think about your own pantry. Picture the shelves. Maybe there's pasta sitting in a box, a bag of rice, a few cans of beans, a jar of oats. Those ingredients aren't just storage, they're possibilities. Dinner waiting quietly on the shelf, soup waiting to simmer, a casserole waiting to happen. Pantry foods are patient like that. They sit there ready whenever you need them. And that's actually one of the reasons I love pantry cooking so much. Because when your pantry is stocked with dependable staples, you're never really starting from nothing. There's always something to build from. A grain, a bean, a can of tomatoes, a handful of spices. Those ingredients can turn into dozens of different meals. A lot of the pantry mixes I make for this old baker actually begin with these same ingredients: rice, beans, spices, simple pantry staples. Those mixes are just combinations of shelf-stable foods that make cooking faster and easier. Because when your pantry is organized and stocked with basics, dinner becomes a lot more flexible and a lot less stressful. There's one small habit that helps pantry foods last longer too: rotation. Sometimes when we bring groceries home, we place the new items right in front, and the older ones slide toward the back. Little by little, those older ingredients get pushed farther away until one day you discover them hiding behind something else. So here's a simple trick. When you restock the pantry, place the new items toward the back and bring the older items forward. It's called first in, first out, and it works beautifully in home kitchens. Now here's something comforting about pantry cooking. Those shelves hold more than ingredients. They hold security, knowing there's food on the shelf, ready when you need it. Even on busy days, even when the fridge looks a little empty, the pantry quietly has your back. And once you understand how long pantry foods really last, you start feeling much more confident using them. So the next time you pick up a can or a box and notice the date printed on the package, pause for a moment, look at the food, check the packaging, trust your senses, because most of the time, pantry foods are more resilient than we give them credit for. And learning that little bit of kitchen wisdom can save food, save money, and make cooking feel a lot easier. If you'd ever like to see the pantry staples and mixes I keep on hand in my own kitchen, you can always visit me at thisoldbaker.com. That's where I share many of the recipes and pantry ideas I use every day. From my kitchen to yours, I'm Kim from This Old Baker. Until next time, keep those jars full and something good in the oven.